And they want me to have family members that get interviewed asking them, when did you first realize there was something different about Boyd when you first met him and all that? And then trying to turn it into being centric to the Raindrops mindset coaching business. Well, I told him that's not what my story is. And I said, my story is that I met somebody who changed my life and I promised her something, and everything that's come as a result is what the story is going to be about.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand.
Bringing in a different part of your story, one of the things you're so passionate about, and that is stem cell research. And a girlfriend of yours from some time back was in a diving accident, correct? And she became paralyzed as a result of that. And when the two of you got together, that became a mission for you, right? And you are now co-founder of Team Fight to Walk. Tell us a little bit about that story, because I think it's probably the perfect time to introduce that with the things that you're feeling.
My friend Kristen, when she was 10, she broke her neck diving into a 5-foot pool. I met her when she was 19 and I was 21, 21. She was out at a dance club celebrating her older sister's birthday. And I just walked up to try to coach. I saw somebody getting pushed. I just saw like a circle moving, and I didn't see, and I saw some blonde hair in the middle, lower down. And I was like, let me go see if she wants to dance. So I went on over, and her friend cut right in between. She's like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I want to dance with your friend." She goes, You can't." And I said, "How come?" She said, "Because she doesn't want to." And then I said, "Can I ask her?" And then I saw her look down at Kristen, and Kristen gave a big nod like that. And like I didn't realize I was waking up that day. And you don't realize you're waking up usually until a lot of introspection. Like, when did the multiverse moment happen that shifted everything? When was that forward decision point? And that was the one. And I promised her after a year being together that I was never going to give up on helping her walk again. And uh, I I came across a doctor at Rutgers University who was one of Christopher Reeve's medical advisors. His name is Dr. Wise Young. He's trying to get this clinical trial funded to happen here in the US, where they're injecting umbilical cord blood stem cells directly into the spinal cord with a very specific walking therapy as well. And we were no longer in a relationship, and I had made this promise though. And while we were together, we went to China for 2 stem cell procedures, and we went to Mexico, and we went to Jordan, and this is 2008 and 9 when this stuff's really experimental, especially. And he needed to raise money. I was working at Johnson and Johnson medical device sales and an officer in the Army Reserve. And I knew that the thing that drew a lot of attention when I boxed as an amateur was, first, I was successful. And then second, when you're successful, who's this guy that stands out? I don't fit the normal model, the archetype, what it's supposed to be. So they want to talk to that guy. And then I used that to talk about Kristen when I was in the amateurs and talk about spinal cord research and stem cells. And it's like brand new in the early 2000s about stem cells. That was also when I learned I needed to educate myself on this so that I can hear the talk from clinicians instead of the stuff that they say to people that don't know about it. So I'm very well versed in regenerative medicine, spinal cord injury, and a lot of different modalities of therapy. Very, very, very well versed. And I decided I'm going to turn pro, and I'm going to create a platform. And since I'm working, I'm going to donate whatever I earn in the ring to this trial every fight, so that anybody I speak to and ask and say, "Can you give $1?" They can't give me a look. So I'm like, "Hey man, I'm risking my life for this shit. Literally.
Mhm.
I really am." And then you're not seeing the whole training camps, the in between, and the dreaded having to try to get the weight off while I have all these other responsibilities. So we ended up starting Team Fight to Walk. That nonprofit is no longer functioning right now. We raised $400,000 in total between galas and donations. And what I'm excited is I've selected. There's this series called Inside Success TV, and the legacy makers is one of their categories. And some of the big names they just started this year. Their plan is to take over as the leading docuseries on Netflix. And so the people they've had so far that I would recognize the names just in this first year since their genesis was Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Damon John. So he's the brother from Shark Tank, and Sensei Kreese from the Karate Kid, who says sweep the leg. Martin Cove, the actor. Allen Iverson, Carmen Electra, the dude who was named Darren Prince. He was the agent for Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, and Ric Flair, and Dominique Wilkins, and big names. Serena Williams recently said yes, and Dennis Rodman just said yes. And I go January 16th to film, and I get to control the script for this. So I've been going back and forth with the writers that I knew what types of questions they were going to ask. And it's more of like, tell me about your childhood. Tell me how when you went through this type of thing. And then they want me to have family members that get interviewed for a B-roll and asking them, when did you first realize there was something different about Boyd when you first met him and all that? And then trying to turn it into being centric to the Raindrops mindset coaching business. Well, I told him that's not what my story is. And I said, my story is that I met somebody who changed my life, and I promised her something, and everything that's come as a result is what the story is going to be about. Ending with everybody watching this, please go to justadollarplease.org and give $1, please. And I have some information to share, like uh, spinal cord injury for the 300,000 Americans paralyzed. It cost our government's tax dollars $10 billion every year for 300,000 humans injured. And it's every year. It's the leading cost for a medical diagnosis for tax dollars to support. And I really believe that if America knew that for 300,000 people, it's costing $10 billion, the way that we got together to realize it's in America's best interest to find this vaccine for COVID, irrelevant what people think about the vaccine, just the idea of it's in America's best interest it's in the best interest to fund a cure for spinal cord research. The challenge is, when companies go to clinical trial, they usually have one treatment, one specific thing to address one part of it, and that's what they're putting all their money in, and that's what they hope to get approved. It's a synergistic approach with having to have a three-dimensional scaffold surgically put where the injury is, and layer it with stem cells and layer it with stuff to break down the barriers so the axons can grow, and then hooking them up to electrodes after, like sending the signals and walking and bearing their own. It's a whole big thing. So my plan, and I put this on for the last question I want them to ask me, is I said to them, I want them to say to me, you said there's somebody you want to speak directly to. Please go ahead. And I'm going to directly speak to the camera and speak to Shaquille O'Neal and tell him, I need you to help me. I need him to say, yeah, I'm an Army brat. You're an Army brat. My daddy was a sergeant major. So was yours. You told in your docu-series, you told your kids they have to have 2 masters before you're willing to do business with them. I have 2 masters. And you have an educational doctorate in organizational learning and change. I'm earning mine right now in organizational leadership and change. We both were professional athletes. And this is my line, I need Superman to come and help me finish what Superman started. And this is what we need. And everything you've watched, I've been at this for a long time, and I'm speaking directly to you, and you have the ability to help. And I know you have people in your life who are paralyzed, and what you don't know is helps a lot sooner than what you think. People just don't know that this study is out there. And the study was published in cell transplantation, May of 2016. And they have images showing the cord. They have an imagery system that the cord the part that works glows. So you see a glowing like a snake, and then it just ends. And then you'll see like a year after putting the therapy, little trickles growing up through that space.
Wow.
But then it has to connect to the muscle still. So even if the cord's there and it hasn't, so it's got to learn through the rehab part. And it says in the abstract, 15 out of 20 patients paralyzed an average of 7 years. can now walk at least 10 meters with the walker. Not walk like you and I walk, but they couldn't walk at all. And 12 out of 20 had their bladder and bowel return. And it's frustrating because I saw the video of their walking, and it's a guy with a walker and puts it out one step, and it looks very mechanical. And for instance, Dr. Young showed this to a doctor in Spain, and his response was, "That's not walking. You didn't help anybody walk yet." And that's usually what it is when everybody has their egos and they want to speak for what is something for somebody else. You know, you ask someone with a spinal cord injury for long enough, what's the one thing you wish you could change, if anything? And it's not even walking. It's just make the pain stop, the neuropathic pain that they live with every day throughout the day. Just make the pain stop. That's it. And then after that is, I wish I could use the bathroom, do my own grooming.
Yeah, it's interesting. You would say that I guess from a technical doctor type of a thought process, he could make a judgment that that's not walking. But I bet that felt like big steps to the person that's got the injury. You know what I mean? To him, it's walking
almost impossible
right?
to them. Right.
So no, that's a very interesting. Your deep dive into that, man, we wish you luck with Shaquille O'Neal doing that. I can see him saying yes. That would be incredible.
So can I. And I thank you. And I know that this whole thing sits at the same type of table that can access him. And I think it will come through sooner than later. And I also was connected. So another thing, so in the US, the reason why stem cell therapies cost so much is because when we pull them from the source, your bone marrow or your fat tissue or your amniotic sac or the umbilical cord, we're not allowed to expand them outside of the body. So what you get is what you get. Other countries, they can expand them. The only times they'll allow them to expand are 3 different companies are allowed to for cancer treatment as a replacement and for to help in conjunction with chemo to help the immune system. So for essentially no company can. And so what happens is they have to go to multiple umbilical cords to get the clinical therapeutic amount that they're going to put in somebody else. So that's where the thousands and thousands to tens of thousands start. So most companies, like for example, will get for the amounts that they need, like a quarter of the amount. So they'll have to go to 4 different sources to get that amount, and then that's the cost. Well, for example, I took my father to Panama 2 years ago because he has Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia. And so we had 120 million umbilical cord blood stem cells injected. It's 120 million. It cost $26,900. There's a company now I'm working with. It's the only company in the US that has this technology, and they have the FDA IND study proving it. In one shot from the umbilical cord, they can get 100 million. And they also can get something called exosomes. And exosomes is like the new wave. Exosomes are inside the stem cells, but they also can be isolated from the stem cell. They're not a cell. Well, their job, anybody's can go into anybody's body, and they just get your cells to communicate. They turn off inflammation where there's inflammation. They create new blood flow and capillaries around where the injury is to get more blood there. And they get your body to release their own stem cells. So exosomes can get into the central nervous system because they're very tiny. So the thing with stem cells, if you inject it with an IV, only about 1% is going to get to my brain or my spinal cord because of their sheer size. They get stuck in capillaries throughout your body. And then they'll do good stuff where they are, but that's not what you wanted them to. The exosomes are so tiny, even if you do an IV, they're all going to make it there. So in the US, doctors are paying around $450 for 50 billion exosomes. And this same company is able to get 500 billion exosomes from the cord blood stem cells at $350. So you pay 50 billion for $450, or you get 50 billion for 450, or you get 500 billion for $350.
Right.
So this company combined gives you 100 million umbilical cord blood stem cells with 3 trillion exosomes at a cost of, I think it's $3,800 to the practice. $3,800. I paid for my father 26,900 for 120 million. And then when I took him to get 150 billion exosomes in the US, that was $7,500. So for 150 billion exosomes, 7,500. For 120 million of the stem cells, 26,900, right? So we're almost at like $33,000. For $3,500 to the doctor, you get 3 trillion exosomes and 100 million. Their whole purpose of this, and I'd say anybody reach out to me who listening to this on Instagram, please, or LinkedIn, Boyd Melson. And there are 2 doctors I know that do it here in New York. I've had my father treated by him. I had my sister just got treated for her joints. They inject in joints or they just give you the IV. It's around. This technology exists here in the US, and their purpose is to stop us Americans from having to travel internationally, and then to also that stop doctors from having to pay to get more cells internationally. So they're a disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that falls into that space still.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
Why I don't know a lot about it. Why do they limit why do they say you can't duplicate the stem cells outside of the body? Like what's the reasoning behind that restriction?
That if you start tinkering with them outside of the body, then that may get them to eventually metastasize and become cancer or turn into something cancerous.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
why.
But other countries do it. So is there truth behind that?
There's truth, but it's negligible. I think
Okay.
I think it's negligible. But it's still so negligible in America. If it happens to 1 million people when there are 350 million people, it's negligible, but that's less. That's 1/3% of our whole population, but that's still 1 million people.
Right.
So
So there's still a lot of research to be done.
Yeah.
there's still well, I think the research is out still then with why not to allow it. But the cool part, this company was able to circumvent that and figure out within the regs, the rules, how to get that many. So
Interesting.
What an incredible story.
So interesting.
Well,
yeah, reach out to me, anybody hearing this, please. I have some juicy stuff to share about stuff in my life in terms of certain business ventures, which everything in my mind goes back to I need to be able to maneuver this so that I can fund the research myself. And so that is what everything is. So that is what cool stuff I'm working on, that especially one of them financially should allow that to happen one day. But I'm trying to get it knocked out with connecting with Shaq on this thing.
Yeah.
we're behind you all the way. I'm going to speak it into existence. It's going to happen for you, and then we're going to have you and Shaq back on here talking about it.
That'd be great.
We both have goals here. Let's get this done. Let's get this funded. Let's get this research out there and get it changing lives. And then we'll follow up with all the good news. I want to ask one last question of you. Tell the audience how they can learn more.
You can learn more. New Jersey Spinal Cord Injury Project is what Dr. Wise Young keeps up, and he has a big forum on there with people always asking questions. If you want to see what I usually I share, especially a lot on my story, because I Google alert clinical trials. Actually, I learned about that from Christopher Reeve's sister-in-law, Deborah Morosini, and she changed my life because now it just pops up every day and I get to read the literature. So you come to Boyd Melson, M as in Mary, ELSON, on Instagram and Facebook. And please DM me with any questions. You have anything regarding spinal cord injury. I've been putting myself out here for a long time, and people message me frequently. So don't feel like you're going to be the first. Don't feel embarrassed. This is way more important than feelings. So just get over it. Send me a text about any questions you have, and I'll be happy to answer. And I am happy that I got to share all the virtual world watching this right now, that we got to spend time together.
Yeah, we are too. And what I love most, Boyd, is you had a chance to end with anything you wanted about your career, about your boxing, about your academia, about your coaching, and you ended with that. That is character. And we wish you all the
I didn't even
best.
think about. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't think about it that way. Thank you. You guys are great. I'll be so happy to come on again. We can just keep this rolling.
We would love it.
We would love that.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at brandfaceguide.com.